Hello, my friend, and welcome. I am so excited to be here with you again today, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this technology that connects us to new opportunities. And I'm grateful for this day, a new beginning. We have a gift of life. We have a gift to be joyous and to share good, positive energy together to inspire, to empower, and to encourage each other. My name is Jana Masik. I'm the host of this LinkedIn Live broadcast, Powering Unique You. And these are all about you. These conversations are for you, my friend. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to bring you amazing guests and to hear feedback from you. So please don't be shy. Let me know where you're coming from. Let me know how things are going on in your life. And please contribute to the conversation. Ask questions. Tell us what you think on the subject, and let's make it a fun conversation today. Well, the topic of this conversation is very interesting. The first time I saw that, when I met my guest, I said, wow, this is intrigued. It's a little bit of curiosity engaging, right? How do we move? How can you move your ideas and career forward without breaking too much China? And today's guest is going to share a lot of tips and practical advice with us right on that topic. So I cannot wait to bring this lady to you that is just a phenomenal, great, optimistic, energetic, amazing human. She's a strategic partner to companies and leaders. She is also choosing to reject culture transformations. She focused on operationalizing and evolving culture to care for humanity and performance. So for now and for next, now with nearly 20 years working in the small, mid-sized, and large companies, and also running her own company for 5 years as an entrepreneur, she loves to maximize her impact on her clients through the proven approach, the humankind difference. And kind, there is a big kind. So without further ado, I would love to bring on Anna Oakes. Hi, Anna.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning. So stoked to have you today. You're just amazing. I know you run your own podcast. You have so many, activities going on. I would love for you to share your personal journey and maybe a little bit of professional journey of what were those milestones that really affected and created the Anna that we can see and know today.
Oh, for sure, Johnny. Well, thank you. First of all, thanks for having me. Happy to be here today talking about one of my favorite topics, right? Moving our career and our ideas forward. And, I think the title of today is so representative of like how I got here and why I'm here talking about these things, because I spent 19 years in house, and that's inside companies, right? So I started when I was in college working for a great organization, State Farm Insurance, and sort of cut my teeth in there, but have also worked with small and mid-sized organizations. And the first half of my career was spent in operations and supply chain and other leadership type roles. And then I fell into people strategy because I was really opinionated, right? I was asking questions of a small company that I worked for in terms of our growth plans. And that curiosity opened up a door. They were like, hey, look, if you've got all these questions and these ideas, why don't you help us with that? And then suddenly my desk was moved to HR, which I knew nothing about HR. So I think, what's interesting about my career is that I fell into this work, but it's so aligned for me. And I hear that happen to a lot of people in many different ways. But I looked back after I left in 19 years, right? So 19 years, left 5 years ago in April. So just celebrated my 5-year anniversary. And I sort of looked back at that career and thought, gosh, how did I get where I got? Like, what was the magic sauce? What were the lucky things that happened to me along the way? And I stepped back to say, like, I truly feel like through the whole time I was working inside organizations, that I was approaching things as an entrepreneur, right? And the way that I look at an entrepreneur, some people define it, right, as innovation and all this other stuff. I look at it as an entrepreneur as somebody who completely owns their own skill set and their impact and says, like, I choose to work here, and therefore I'm going to choose to make the biggest difference that I can and like gobble up all the opportunities, because in essence, I feel like sometimes the missing piece, Shauna, is that people look at their career and they're waiting for a leader or the company to give them things. I say
So
don't wait, right? It's up to us. It's up to us to grab that and make the best of it and really use what you're doing right now to get to your best next.
I love it. I admire the story, and I love how you define this entrepreneur. A lot of people aspire to say, or would kind of look at entrepreneurs and say, oh my goodness, they run the businesses, they run this. And then people that still want to stay in the corporate world and work for organizations, which, I think both are beautiful and both have places, and there are needs for both. Sometimes maybe you may, if you work in a corporate, you may have sense that, I'm not running for the business. But this definition that you've given, the owning of your career, the owning of your ideas within the company, and bringing that perspective. And I feel more companies, especially the tech companies and the companies that are focused on growing and longer term involvement, they're looking for that type of mindset. They're looking for people that are thinking like owners, that they own their life, they own their skill, they own their career, and they bring forth the ideas without feeling intimidated to any level within the organization. And that is really admirable.
Yeah. And we see books out there, right? Like ownership cultures, and that's great. I think having an ownership mindset and talking about that with people is great. I like to say, look, there's a responsibility of the ecosystem to provide the environment in which humans and performance can both thrive, right? So that's the ecosystem, that's the company you work for. But regardless of how good they're doing at their job, we can always choose to say, like, I'm working here for however long I'm going to work here, right? And it may not be your dream job, but in essence, we get paid to learn and grow and get ready for our next best job. Like, that's pretty cool when you can reframe it like that. And know that, like, we're not expecting perfection out of ourselves or our employer, we're expecting progress.
That is so true. And we have Keith joining us. Hello, Keith. Keith is saying it's up to us to get our next step. I agree. I absolutely agree. Anna, what are the 4 Ps? What are the definition of entrepreneurs? The people that are within companies that are defining who they are, how they move forward, and give us some insights on that.
Of course, yeah. So, the 4 Ps for me came up, Jana, when I was asked to do a TEDx talk. It was about 2 years ago, and I was approached by the Marquette University TEDx here in Milwaukee area. And I thought, well, gosh, if I have a platform, what am I going to talk about? And honestly, I first pitched a totally different idea. And thank goodness that they took my second pitch after they said yes. I said, I don't really want to talk about that. Here's what I want to talk about. Because people approach me every day, honestly, Jana, online, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, saying, like, I'm not sure that this is what I should be doing with my life. And if it is, where am I going next? Everybody asks those 2 questions. And honestly, I still do too, right? So because of those 2 questions, I wanted to reflect on this. What's going on? What's the gap for people? And so I came up with these 4 Ps, right? And they're all around the entrepreneur, saying the first one is profile. I'd like to give reassurance that when I'm talking about how to be an impactful entrepreneur, that you don't have to be a great salesman. You don't have to be extroverted. You can be who you are. There's no one right profile. We look at introverts like Mark Mitri on LinkedIn who has figured it out how to remain him and still move things forward, right? Yes. So I give permission that it isn't just the right profile, this like, hey, shaking hands, kissing babies type of person. It can be any of us as long as we're willing to own our skills and our impact. So profile is the first one. Pressure is the second one. And that one's a lot around how I think we got here in this antiquated world of work, Shauna, where it's like people are just waiting and saying, like, oh, somebody's going to give me a great project or somebody's going to give me a great promotion. We've gotten there because of the pressure, right? Mm-hmm. We have so much pressure to perform, to do one thing really well, to find our passion. And we sort of have to push back on that pressure and say, like, yeah, that's what society tells us. That's what I was sort of raised to do. But I don't want that pressure, right? I don't want that pressure to have just one thing. I can, for example, instead of having one passion, I can have multiple passions. I can have what I call a passion patchwork, right? So think about a white duvet cover from IKEA, beautiful. And think about a quilt, right? Like the one on my bed over here that is my grandma Zula made, and it's tattered and it has all these beautiful colors. Have a passion patchwork and have multiple things going for you so that you're fueling yourself. I think we're too often waiting for others to fuel us. And then another concept about the passion patchwork, Jana, is that I feel like when this goes to permission now, this is the third one, when one of those squares no longer fulfills us, we should give ourselves permission to swap it out, right? We say like, I got to stick with it, right? I got a law degree, therefore I should be a lawyer. Well, what else could you do with that, right? So we need, relieve the pressure, give ourselves permission. And then the last one is promote. We don't do that well enough. We don't promote our skills. We don't promote and talk about what might we want to do next because we're scared. Well, what would my employer say if I talked about those things?
Yes.
So I feel like the tide is shifting though, Jana. When I gave this talk 2 years ago, I felt like I wanted to scream these things from the mountaintop. And now I kind of feel like, oh, look at the talent shifting. Look at the talent demanding more of this type of ecosystem that's going to allow them to operate like that.
I agree. And these are really insightful piece. Profile is embrace who you are. There is no one's wrong. Each one of us is unique. When we value our uniqueness, when we value who we are, embrace it and love ourselves for who we are, we can show up courageously, and we don't have to mask, pretend we're someone else, or we don't have to, try to keep up to someone's expectations. And the pressure is immense, I think, from the society, from the requirements, built up over the years, some of the hierarchy that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
And then giving yourself a permission, right? Giving yourself a permission to look at broader ways and, try new things, get out of your comfort zone, tack a project, maybe volunteer for something that is completely scary to you, and promote yourself is so good. I actually just working on a small recruiting project, and I had to go through 300 applicants in a couple of days. People so under promote themselves. People are just amazing how, most of the people don't have the vision of what their capacities are and put it in a way that is going to be more attractive for potential employers, for potential collaborations, business opportunities. I love those P's. Those are fantastic. So we're talking about entrepreneurs, the people who are within corporate world, working for companies, looking to fuel themselves. I like that. Fuel themselves from within, and instead of looking for others to pump into them. This is really taking your power back, right? And what are the 3 skills that you believe those type of people, the entrepreneurs, need to have and develop?
Yes. Yeah. And I think the skills directly relate to our title, right? Like this is one of my keynotes and workshops that people love, is the how to move your career and ideas forward without breaking too much China. And I promise you that what I put into this is all the research that I do with entrepreneurs. I've been, researching a book for the last year and a half or so that goes in there, but also my own experience, Jana, of breaking too much China, and what I mean by that is like, there are sort of better ways to go about this. I don't want to say right ways, but there are better ways to go about these types of things to position yourself as a person of impact internally. And then there are ways that we can go too far, right? So I want to give these 3 skills because I say if there's any 3 skills that I want you to focus on, it's these, right? And these were true 2 years ago. And honestly, with the shifting world of work that we've had over the past year plus, these are still true today, right? So the 3 of them are curiosity, storytelling, and business plan. So I tell people, look, especially like I'm from the Midwest, people don't promote themselves even, especially here. So we have to start thinking about other people first, right? So instead of talking about your ideas, get curious about theirs, right? Go on informational interviews inside your organization, take those blinders off of what you're doing every day and start to get educated on what else is going on in your organization. It's going to make you a better partner for that business, that company. And this is from startup to Fortune 100 company, Jana. Like, this is about an individual mindset. This is about a swagger that you can have that says, like, I'm here, I'm going to make an impact. And I always say start with curiosity, because you're going to build strong relationships, and what you're going to hear are stories and data. Like, how did they get their projects put forward? What's
Yes.
going on with their department? And you can leverage that, right? So it's going to make you better for the company, and I think it'll make you more impactful for your role. So curiosity is the first thing I think. Practice, then start storytelling, right? Tell stories to other people about what you heard other people say, right? And once you get that down, once you can practice like true storytelling of like, hey, have you heard what's going on in IT over there? Like, that's actually going to help generate revenue over here, right? So you're telling these stories, you're going to become known as sort of this like energetic person who cares about the system, the whole thing. And companies want that, guys. Like, I've been behind the scenes long enough. Like, they're looking for people who,
Connectors.
loyalty in the traditional sense, people who can stay here 30 years. I don't think progressive companies are looking for that. I think they're looking for people that while you're here, you're going to be impactful. So tell those stories, get used to that, and then you can start to introduce your own, right? Weave your own in there, right? Like, oh, and by the way, I was working on a project. This is what I found. What do you think, right? Then we're pairing storytelling with curiosity and talking about other people at the same time, their strengths and their impact. And then the last one is pitch ideas or a business plan, right? We have to practice how are we pitching ideas, and it is company specific. So for the people who are inside an organization who are like, oh, give me the template. Look, there's some organizations, Jana, that like require 5 bullets, right? Here's the idea, here's what I think it'll do. And then there's some that require like a whole pitch deck. Ask people who've moved ideas forward inside your organization, how did you get that put through, right? What was the template that you used? Can I see the deck? If they're like, oh, well, there's some private information, do you mind just taking out the amounts? I'm curious just on like how you talked about the idea. Right. And again, now here we're just demonstrating curiosity. We're learning at the same time of how ideas actually get moved forward in this organization. And it could even be specific to the department, right? Some department leaders like it this way. So start to build your knowledge of how to do that, and then practice, right, on small scales and then moving up to big scales so that you can move your ideas forward. You're not going to ever win all of them, nor should you. But you could pitch a lot of ideas that could actually make an impact for an individual or the collective good.
I agree, Anna. These are great insights. And I believe all of these 3 skills and traits require courage.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It requires stepping out of your little box that so many people that are working in corporate world. I hope it's not you that you're, watching us right now, but I've observed so many people, they just feel they're in that box and they don't feel, sometimes maybe culture prevents them or some other, again, expectations or norms or other things prevent them, Anna. But, it requires courage to step out of a box, challenge curiously, and also from the place of, let me learn about this. Please tell me more about this. When you come from that place of curiosity and inquire people to create a safe space where they feel you're genuinely interested, most of the people would respond with sharing the information and, helping you grow and helping you, gain more awareness of what's going on within the company, the department. And that's how I feel many people feel stuck in their jobs because they're like, I've learned everything I've learned, Anna, here. I've got everything I've done. What's next for me? Yeah. And then again, that victim mentality, almost like when my boss is going to give me next promotion, right? Or when my company is going to give me a next raise. What I love about your approach and what you are sharing is that you flip that coin to say, I will take the ownership. And yes, I will do my best if you're in alignment, your future goals and aspirations are in alignment with the organization. Or maybe this is just a transition for you. And you need to start looking further what company or what organization is going to be in alignment with where you see yourself in the future. So those are really ownership steps, and I love them.
And can I two things real quick, John, on that is I tell people, you said earlier, like I've learned all I can, I've done all I can here. I call BS. Like rarely, I've coached hundreds of leaders, right? From CEOs to really high performing interns who've got tons of great potential. I don't care. There's more that you can do. I tell people, like, double down first, unless you're in a toxic work environment where something is harming you emotionally. And sometimes, look, that's not always on the company, right? I come from a domestic, I'm a domestic abuse survivor. And so I'm triggered in certain ways. So maybe if I was in a company and I had one style of leader and that was the only leader that I could have based on the size of the company, it's a toxic, maybe it's a harmful environment for me, but that doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong. Right?
Yeah.
Just means maybe I'm not a good fit there. And so I always say, Jana, look, double down and don't expect the grass to be better on the other side. It's not greener, it's a different color. And there's always dog poop in the yard because humans are involved, right? So there's going to be imperfection if you go here or here, or so start where you're at. And like think about a kid in a candy store, Jana, like that scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, like, you can make the sun rise. Like, they just start grabbing candy off the shelves and like taking full advantage of where you're at. It just gets me so stoked to see when people can really own this, like how much better, how much they grow, how much they learn. And then they make such an impact that like they thought they were disengaged and halfway out the door, sometimes like 3, 4, 5+ years more, because they found like they've refreshed their own thinking. And then suddenly when we do that, opportunities come to us internally too.
This is so true. This is so true, Anna. And Keith is summarizing our conversation, the 4 Ps: profile, pressure, permission, and promote. Thank you so much, Keith. This is fantastic. Thank you for joining in and supporting today. Now, Anna, what are the things that hold most of the people back? What are the things that maybe prevent us from, stepping into owning our life, moving our career forward, moving our ideas forward, and some of the tips you give with that?
Yeah. If I had to pick 2 things that I think hold us as humans back, one is fear. Right? You mentioned courage earlier. I think it was last week, Jana, that I posted. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm responsible for a team, got all these things, right? But in essence, we're doing the same thing. I'm trying to maximize my impact here, just like I did internally. But I posted that like there's some days where I'm avoiding, and I think like, oh God, I'm just so lazy. But actually, I'm scared. Right? I'm scared that if I put myself out there, I might get rejected, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared that I could fail. I'm scared that I'm going to make that pitch and someone's going to say no. I had very similar fears. And when I do work with entrepreneurs, it's not as often, right? Because I'm typically at that organizational level in the leadership position. But if I do work with an individual contributor, for example, who's high performing, everybody's just as scared. Right? They're just as scared if we're really honest with ourselves. So I always say, like, look, the world would be better if we all had a coach and a therapist, because we'd be addressing some of these like emotional layers of being a human. But I also have realistic expectations, right? That when I work with like a startup accelerator, for example, it's usually less than 5% of the founders who've ever worked with a coach.
Yes.
Let alone a therapist, right? So I'm realistic that I'm probably not going to remove all that fear, especially because like I'm a high therapy person and I still have the fear too. So I think you have to embrace it and continue to tell yourself, like, what's the one thing that I can step into right now that feels safe but could maximize my impact? Like, start to look for those opportunities. Like, what's the one thing you want to do more of? What's the one thing you want to learn or try? And what's maybe the one thing that you're not excited about anymore? Then look at that list and pick something off there. What's a tactical thing that you could do that would push through that fear and start to address that, right? What you want more of, what you want to learn, or what you want less of. So that's fear. I guess I think the other one would be lack of self-awareness. I think it's one of the top skills. I should probably add it to like curiosity, storytelling, and pitching, but it's a true skill and we have to practice it, right? Knowing what we're really good at and knowing what we're not. I mean, I don't like that whole like tell me your strengths and your weaknesses. I can tell you where my blind spots are, right? I can tell you where I'm not as effective. And then let me tell you about what my highest and best use is, right? So, like, use a psychometric assessment, like Gallup. Clifton Strengths is one of my favorites, or, Myers-Briggs or Insights, or there's tons of great ones out there, but build your own awareness, because once we start with self-awareness, which by the way, Cornell University did a study, it's the #1 predictor of success. CEOs. So that works for CEOs. It's not charisma. It's not strategic thinking. It's not all the stuff. It's knowing who you are.
Yes.
And once you know that, then other awareness follows. I really do. I really, truly believe that. So if I would say, start to spend time on yourself, right? Into some of those business books that you roll your eyes at, or some of those personal development books, or get a coach, or take a course that's going to start to make you look at your own skill set and your behaviors because those are two different things. You need to start looking at those differently.
I agree, Anna. These are really good insights. I agree that fear holds us back big time, and sometimes we don't want to admit to that. Sometimes we brush it under the rug and we pretend there's other things, that excuses. There's so many excuses, but it's really fears, and sometimes I feel through this pandemic, it may be fear of losing your job. Sometimes you feel, okay, I'd better stay back a little bit and don't be so straightforward, or don't be, maybe too much. I'd rather reserve. So there are multiple fears that can hold you back. And I agree that, working through those, really unpacking those, find the coach, find the therapist, whatever works best for you, and gain the self-awareness. I think the self-awareness is not an overnight thing. You don't get an assessment and you look at it and you all of a sudden is all self-aware. No. It's a progression journey.
Practice, right? Practice and progress. Hey, Jana,
I got muted somehow.
You did. I think I lost you. That's
technology okay. Here you are for you.
But no, I think all of that is so great, Jana. When we start to move through that fear and really embrace what we can do, people think they're going to overstep their bounds and like come in like a bull in a china shop. Listen to me. Most of you on this line, including myself, and I'm a push, right? I'm a driver. Like, we are so far from pushing it over the line because of our own mentality that you're not going to do that, right? You're going to inch your way into it. You're going to be fine, but you've got to start pushing into it, or you're never going to learn and grow to get to what your best next is. You'll stay stagnant.
I agree. We have Julie saying, as an introvert, I often find myself trying to be more extrovert. It always backfires. I love own your skill and impact. I have so much to offer, but I need to sell myself. This is awesome, Julie. And this goes part and part with self-awareness. I think when you work on self-awareness continuously, again, it's a journey, you start seeing things within yourself that you realize you need to love, appreciate, and value, right? Yeah. And stop comparing yourself with other people, other journeys, or other expectations, and try to comply or mold yourself into someone's expectation. And this is a beautiful journey, and this is all about, powering unique you. How can you empower yourself to know your value, to know that you are only one, Julie, on the earth, and you only the one that can bring forth beautiful things, or create beautiful things, or make things happen that perhaps nobody else is destined to be on, to do on this earth. So it's that value, I think the intrinsic value can then catapult your perception. Again, you start promoting yourself courageously without feeling that you are arrogant or too much. Yeah. And then you start seeing the opportunities literally knocking on your doors, because people get attracted. There's freedom, there's internal freedom in people that work on their self-awareness, and it becomes like a magnet. Other people get attracted to that. Did you notice that phenomenon, Anna?
Oh, for sure, right? People want more of that. When you're confident, it's kind of like that theory you do where you finally find somebody that you're really mad about, dating wise, and you start to date them, and then all these other people come out of the woodwork because you're lit up. You let that nervousness, oh, am I going to meet somebody that I really like? Same thing in our career, right? We're so sort of waiting for the perfect person to show up. It doesn't happen. Expecting our employer to be the one to fulfill us and hand us our golden career on a platter is similar to thinking our life partner is the one that should fulfill us. It doesn't work that way. We've got to start with our own fulfillment, or no partner, no company, no leader is ever going to be able to make an impact. So it does. It starts with us.
I agree. Keith is saying thank you today for today's stimulating message. Keith, thank you so much. You're such a cheerleader. You always encourage, and you're just giving an example in how to encourage others and spread the positivity around. And Anna, I appreciate you coming, sharing so many insights today. And maybe as we close, what are the growth opportunities? We talked about different aspects, skills, what can hold you back. how not to move forward, to break too much China, break bridges sometimes. But what are the growth opportunities for the introverts, for the entrepreneurs that can look into improving and moving themselves forward?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of individuals grew up in organizations where like training was sort of it, right? Like the formal education. But I try to look beyond education and I look for experience and exposure, right? So go ahead if you want to find a course and you want to ask for that money and approval, sure. I'd rather see you look around, and as you're being curious and doing those informational interviews and those copies in your organization, I'd rather start to have you look for things that you want to have exposure to, right? And exposure to me is you're going to watch, right? You're going to watch your leader go in and pitch that project to the executive team, for example. You're going to ask for that opportunity to have the exposure. Not going to say anything, just going to watch, right? Or you can do experience, which is like, now that I've gathered all this, I actually want to work on that project over there, right? On the other side of our department, on the other side of the company. How can I do that, right? Working with your leader to say, like, I really want to gain experience. This is the specific skill that I'm looking to improve. Here's how I think it'll help me in my day job, right? Because we always have to remember, like, this is not, as much as I say, like, be a kid in a candy store, you have to honor your day job. So it's your day job plus, right? Get really smart at doing that, create some capacity. Then you're going to build capability through experience and exposure, far better than you would through education or training.
I love this. So the 3 tips is education, experience, and exposure. And I agree with you, Anna, that exposure and experience will take you so much more forward. I've met amazing, bright, intelligent women that have 2-3 degrees, and they're still in the entry position and they're not happy and they do not know how to move forward. They do not know how to get out of that little box. And it's really, again, starts with you. It's the power is within you. Don't expect somebody to start fueling. You're going to have to fuel yourself. You're going to have to energize yourself. You're going to realize you got an amazing engine, like V8 within you. And you're going to have to start putting gasoline in there and put the oil in it and maintain it and make ready for that race to win your own race, right? You're racing with yourself. So don't sit in the box. Create opportunities for you to gain more experience, diverse experience, not necessarily in your lane of expertise, and then create opportunities to gain exposure within your company. And I would add, much more importantly, outside of your company. And I think this platform, LinkedIn, is a phenomenal platform for that, where you can share your subject matter expert ideas, you can share your lessons, you can share from the position of mentoring others up that are just maybe coming off to college and you have 10 years experience in the industry. You can gain exposure. Just one story that come to my mind. I met a lady last year when the COVID hit and she lost her job, and we had a conversation. She reached out and she said, "Can I pick your brain?" I said, "Sure, yeah." And we talked a little bit, and she said, "You know what? I worked for this company so tirelessly. I've done so many fantastic opportunities. I brought business in, for 5 years, I was just pouring my all into this projects, into this company, and into this team. And when the pandemic hit, they eliminated my role. And I lost my job, and I feel like I'm starting from scratch. I'm starting from nowhere." Yeah. And I said, "Well, you're going to find a job because you're a bright, amazing lady. But think about it that way. Who knew about all of these amazing projects that you've done for that company? Yep. Only you, your boss, and maybe some of your teammates. Yep. Nobody else. And yes, you may not be able to expose or share a lot of the things that are confidential for your company, but don't just sit in that one bucket. Go reach out to people, start having infomercial curiosity conversations with people beyond your organization, so you have a wider, broader network and wider, broader exposure. So when the next opportunity comes, or maybe that door's closed, you have an arsenal of ways how you can approach of positioning yourself, again, promoting yourself, and moving your professional life and your ideas forward.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's about not perfection again, right? It's my mantra, peace and progress. Like, we need to have peace in who we are, in alignment in who we are, and then we need to be working towards progress. I think that's how we're going to make an impact wherever we go. And remember, you choose to work there. Right. So make it your best. And I promise, like time and time again, I see it, like it gets you to your best next, and a best next that probably you didn't even think of.
This is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for coming. Now,
course.
share maybe a little bit how our viewers and listeners can find you, and maybe some of the things that you can give them for free, or some of the things that you would like to share with the audience.
Yes, for sure. Well, I'm happy to connect with everybody on LinkedIn, right? That's a great place to do that. You can find me on there. It's last name is Oakes, so Oaks with an E in there. You can also visit our website, right? The Oaks Co. We've got a blog, which it has been sporadic, but we've also got 2 video casts, right? We've got one that is a short form that we launch an episode almost daily on LinkedIn. It's 10 minutes or so. You can hear from people doing the work to advance people in culture. And then we just dropped a new podcast, which we're also airing video clips, called Borrow from the Best, where we're bringing on really great leaders and companies, small to large, but they're doing something, a program, a process, a mindset that we can borrow from. So, right, I've had Maya Grossman on there. I've had Emer Marinin, the head of HubSpot's culture, right, talking about how they're transitioning to hybrid. And then I think this week we're launching Claude Silver, right? She's the chief heart officer for VaynerMedia. So those of you who know Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary V, she talks about how do they attract and hire the best. And it's not always pretty, right? They make mistakes too because humans are involved. But what is like one nugget that you could walk away from that I want you to borrow from the best and try to implement it either in your own individual practice or that as a company and leader? So please check those out. I do my best to try to provide as much free content through those as I possibly can. So would love for people to enjoy those episodes. Like, subscribe, and share would be helpful too.
That is awesome, Anna. Thank you so much again for coming. This has been really insightful to hear all of your tips and advice and wisdom that you've shared. I feel there's so many things that can be borrowed from today's conversation that you shared with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jana, for all you do for people and culture. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the time today. Sending everybody peace and progress.
This is wonderful. Peace and progress. Don't we need that? Don't we need more in our lives, whether it's personally or professionally? I agree. We do need more peace and we do need progress. Let's not settle down for sitting in one box, feeling stale, feeling underutilized, feeling undervalued. Make choice to make progress, make choice to choose progress, and set your own steps, set your own way in how you can move your life and your career and your ideas forward. And Anna shared fantastic, tremendous resources today. Simple steps, simple tips, and I hope these have been of value to you. If you do like this episode, please share it with your community here on LinkedIn. I would appreciate that, and I hope we can help more people to feel more empowered. And until next time, be well, my friend, and keep powering unique you. See you again.